people think, well, if I go on holiday, I'm going to be able to relax. And it's exacerbating the problem. I had been in a misunderstanding of what was on the outside world. Doing that is going to be the answer. Lots of stuff just falls away.
That's the kind of tactic that I'm thinking of.
Leadership, it can be just like herding cats. Ever tried that before?
Welcome to Leadership Herding Cats. Leading on from episode 1, we are back with Alison Sutton, mindset coach, qualified transpersonal psychologist and hypnotherapist. And today we're talking about stress being your own making. Before we dive in though, please like, subscribe and follow on your chosen platform so you can catch up with more episodes in the future. How do I do that?
Sadly, and I'm really sorry to say this, there are no hints and tips. There are no tools. There are no techniques. It comes with an understanding. Yeah. And when you understand that you're the one that's creating all of your difficulties, you're less likely to do it.
Yeah.
And the mind will just kind of settle down on its own, because you know that you don't need to interfere. You don't need to stick your fingers in the machine and try and correct it. You just know you need to just wait. And if you leave it alone, it will settle down on its own.
Yeah.
So, sorry, there's no fixed strategies, techniques, none of that. Because I'm giving you more to do.
Yeah.
More to do. It's just about, just leave it alone. Walk away from it. Go and do something else. And it will settle down on its own. And I know that sounds very simplistic, but that's because it is. It is really simple. You poke at it, you pick at it, you try and solve it, you try and get it to stop doing stuff, and it's exacerbating the problem.
So just spinning that round the other way then, and because just to touch on something you did say there, by doing something else. So is that useful as well by changing? So especially for me, you know, I'm managing lots of people, trying to juggle lots of things, spin lots of plates. By, I don't know, stepping out and going to play golf, for example. I can't hit a golf ball, but if I could, can that have the same effect to settle the mind because you're changing what you're thinking about? Or
if you go out and do it with the thinking that this is going to solve my problems, I'm going to go out and play golf and then my mind's going to settle down, then no, it's not, because then you're trying to get an outcome and think that this is a doing thing. This is a being thing, and the way of being, as I said, really just comes from having a good coach who's pointing you to how you're creating your experience.
Yeah.
And learning about your own psychology. And then it just comes. You suddenly wake up. You wake up to what you're doing, and lots of stuff just falls away. It just takes stuff off your plate.
Yeah.
You know, I've got a problem and I need to solve this overthinking mind. So if I go and play golf, then that's going to help. And, you know, if you're going with that intention, it's probably not going to help. And having said that, you know, if you're getting lost in something, so if you're sitting painting, for example, or doing something that's really detailed and you've got completely lost in that, then your mind tends to be quite quiet.
Yeah. Yeah, and I suppose that's the kind of tactic that I'm thinking of. Not so much going and doing something different so you can think about that thing anyway, because that's currently what I tend to do. You know, I'll go running so I clear my mind. No, I go running and I'm trying to solve my problem while panting, essentially. But I'm thinking more of the fact of literally going to take your mind off it, stop thinking, so you can come back the next day and maybe try and solve that problem, but with better clarity and a slightly clearer mind, really.
Yes, yeah, that's not always easy for people to do, but yes, definitely. But then it's a bit like, you know, people think, well, if I go on holiday, then I'm going to be able to relax. You know, I know lots of senior executives and business leaders that they think that looks like doing that is going to be the answer.
Yeah.
But it takes them until about day 13 of their 14-week holiday to actually allow their minds to settle down. And then they have one day of like not thinking about anything, and then they're back to it. So, you know, I'm kind of sticking by the thing that if you're going to do something with an intention to have a better experience in the rest of your life, then the chances are it won't necessarily help.
Yeah.
It only comes really from understanding these fundamental principles of how you're creating your experience.
Okay. So who's your typical client who tends to benefit from this sort of way of thinking?
My typical client, I don't really have a typical client, to be honest. As I said, they're mainly either people who want to feel better or do better. So it's either people that have got some kind of emotional suffering in their life, which might be, or, you know, emotional well-being issue, mental health issue. So that, you know, stress, anxiety, depression, and how that's then affecting their performance at work. So it might be people that have been signed off sick with stress, or it's people that want to create something, but their beliefs about themselves are getting in their way. They're getting in their own way. And so they want to achieve more, they want to do more, they want to be more successful. So it's those two types of people that make up my clients.
Yeah.
Either you want to feel better or you want to do more.
Do you find that many of those are sort of business owners or things like that? Do you work with many business owners?
Yeah, I work with business owners, and I work with people who are just, you know, sole traders as well. So, authors. I work with authors with lots of very different kind of people, because we've all got the same things going on, you know. No matter what the business, no matter what the person, whether it's in our personal life or our professional life, we've all got the same stuff going on. We've got a load of thinking that we're believing to be true, and we've forgotten who we really are. So the greatest story that people tell themselves, when you chunk it down into a small enough piece, is I am not good enough. I am not capable. I've got imposter syndrome. That somebody's going to notice soon that I'm saying I'm good at this, but I'm not really, and I'm going to get caught out. You know, all of that kind of thinking, and they've forgotten who they really are, and being not able to access their own potential.
Yeah. Is there anything in particular that you feel people are actually doing wrong in their approach with dealing with that, then, to get themselves out of that sort of thinking?
Oh gosh, that's a difficult question. Is there anything that people are doing wrong? Well, I would say more that they're looking in the wrong direction, because most people that have problems will try and solve the problem in the outside world. Yeah. So somebody, for example, who's feeling overwhelmed and overworked will think, okay, well, the way I can solve that is if I delegate some of the work, or if I take a week off, or if I set up new systems and processes. You know, that's the way to help me deal with an internal feeling. If I do stuff in the outside world to change the outside world, and of course that can help to an extent. You know, I'm not knocking systems and processes at all, or delegating, but it's looking in the wrong direction. So I think that's the most unhelpful thing that people do. They try to solve what's out there, thinking that will make them feel better in here.
To a degree, then, there's going to be a bit of I suppose there's going to be a bit of a line where some people will agree with your line of thinking, and some people will just maybe say, no, it's just fluffy stuff. You've just got to get on with it and persevere. What you were saying there about, thinking more about maybe why it's affecting you, not what is affecting you potentially. I don't know if that summarizes it okay. What would you kind of say to those people, the people that say, no, don't believe in it?
Before we dive too deep into this week's podcast, I want to tell you a little bit about our sponsors, which is Vapor Clean Commercial Cleaning Services. Vapor Clean provides commercial contract cleaning throughout the Southwest. If you run a business with premises that need cleaning on a daily basis, then we can provide that service for you regularly, sufficiently and consistently to the highest standard. We provide trained professional operatives that are audited and supported the right way, making sure you have the highest standards all year round. So if you want to know more, get in touch. But for now, back to the podcast.
Let me give you an experience of it. I will give you a coaching session and help you to kind of see for yourself, see something new. See something new. It's hard to, particularly with men, dare I say, who kind of have gone through management training or all the 6 ways to do this and the 7 ways to do that, and like strategies and tools and techniques. It can be quite hard to get your head around what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But really the best way is to have an experience of it for yourself. There's loads of ways that I can point you towards where your moment-to-moment experience is coming from through conversation.
Yeah. What in your experience do you find is sort of the most common cause of stress and overwhelm?
A misunderstanding. That's the most
misunderstanding.
A misunderstanding. So stress is the symptoms of a created experience of stress are very real. The same as with anxiety. You get the closed throat and the palpitations and the sweaty palms and the racing heartbeat and all of that stuff. The symptoms are very real. But so there's a story that I tell. Okay, when I was a child, I used to have a wardrobe in my bedroom, and it was a wardrobe that was made of walnut wood. And this wood looked like it had eyes in it. And I would lie there in bed, terrified, thinking that this wardrobe had all of these eyes and this wardrobe was looking at me. So I would have all this kind of experience of stress and fear and anxiety and all of that stuff. And it really looked to me when I was younger as if that experience was coming from the wardrobe, and it was the wardrobe that was creating all of these feelings inside me. That made sense to me. I felt okay when I was walking around. As soon as I got into bed and I could see this wardrobe, when I grew up and I figured out that it was just a wardrobe, there were no symptoms of stress. I had been in a misunderstanding of what was on the outside world that was looking like it was causing me to feel bad. So it's about clearing up misunderstandings. It looks like it is the outside world. It looks like it's a deadline. It looks like it's an unpaid invoice. It looks like it's too many people off sick. It looks like it's too much work and worrying that we've got the capacity to be able to fulfill it. That looks like where the source of stress is coming from. That's a misunderstanding. The source of stress is only ever possible to come from our mind and what we're believing to be true in that moment. So I don't need to help people to sort out all of their to-do lists or their, problems that they've got going on. It's just about, and I know it sounds like I'm repeating myself, helping people to settle their mind down, because then the stress isn't there. The stress that when the mind has settled down, the circumstances are still the same, but the stress has gone. And then you've got access, as I said, to the wisdom that goes, okay, so we haven't got enough staff, but I know where I can get some. We haven't, that bill's not been paid, but there is other ways that we can get some money to come in. We then have our resourcefulness and our resilience and our creativity and our ability to solve problems, because the mind isn't trying to solve everything and has settled down.
It sounds to me, I mean, I will quite often describe people as very laid back and things like that. It sounds to me as what you're saying is someone that would come across as quite laid back in their thinking is naturally that way. They're naturally able to just be a little bit more relaxed and not have such a cluttered mind. Is that?
I guess so. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Some people just are naturally not overthinkers. A lot of people are overthinkers. Some people just naturally aren't. I tend to have a very quiet mind most of the time.
Yeah.
And because of that, I have a good memory. I have really good focus. I'm really productive. I get lots done. I can solve problems because my mind is quiet. It's not trying to rush at 100 miles an hour and feel. It's not creating an experience of fear or an experience of anxiousness or any of that stuff. My mind is quiet, and so I just tend to be able to get more done. So yeah, people who are kind of more naturally calmer and naturally more laid back, tend to have those kind of minds that when you watch them speaking, you can see that they're looking out at that big picture and they're creating because their mind isn't cluttered.
Yeah. And I saw on your website as well, you talk about sort of accountability and self-blame and things like that. Is that something that can have a negative effect or a positive effect on the way you're describing, on your sort of outlook?
Which bit? Sorry, the accountability or the self-blame?
Either, I suppose. Both. Is there a difference? That's the thing. If you hold yourself accountable or you're blaming yourself, how much of a difference is that?
One has, well, I guess from that example, it depends on what the charge is, whether it's got a negative emotional impact or whether it's got a positive emotional impact. There is nothing wrong with holding yourself accountable, but if you start saying, I should have done this better, I could have done that better, I wish I'd done this, I wish I'd done that, that is rarely helpful. But if you're holding yourself accountable and saying, yeah, okay, I could do something differently, what shall I do differently in the future? Then that's kind of two different charges and energies that you're getting from kind of similar type things, really. So one will be helpful and one will be unhelpful.
Which again, I suppose, as you say, it comes down to the wording and the way you're not only thinking about it, but explaining it to yourself or to others. Like you say, if you're saying, I could have done that better, it's more self-blame than I could have done that differently. Or if we'd have done it a different way, it may have had a different result. It comes down to the way you're thinking about it as much as anything else, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the perspective from which you're looking at it. And everything is only ever feedback. We're only ever doing what makes sense to us in that moment. And sorry, I've just got some weird stuff going on here. So I'll start that sentence again. We're only ever doing what makes sense to us in that moment. It's very easy from a future perspective to look back and say, oh, if only I'd done this and I'd done that. But usually from that future perspective, you've got more information. In the moment, you were doing what made sense to you. And we are always only ever doing what makes sense to us in the moment. We can't do anything else. So we're doing what makes sense in the moment. But then when you look back from a future perspective, you can see that you've got more information now, and maybe you would do it differently. So it's all feedback. It's just feedback, you know. Failure, the word failure, just to eradicate that from your vocabulary. It's feedback. Everything is feedback. What could I do differently? How could I create a different experience? Who do I need to be in order to create a different experience of this?
And you've obviously, you're offering coaching services now. You have been for some time. At what point do you think? At what point is it important that someone says, actually, I need to speak to someone, I need some help to maybe get my mindset right? Is there a sort of defining point for that?
I think the defining point tends to be where they recognise that nothing is changing and they can't sort it out or solve it on their own, and that they need somebody who has an objective, you know, who's not so involved and who has an understanding of what's going on in their psychology. So, but I guess the defining moment is that point of suffering. It's always usually a point of suffering where I don't want to feel like this anymore, or I don't want this to keep happening to me, because quite often the same patterns will keep repeating and it looks like it's happening to us, but we're the common denominator. We're showing up in the same way, which is creating the same results. And it's results that we don't want. So it's usually a point of suffering or a point of frustration where somebody has figured out that they've got stuff going on because they're not getting the results that they want. No, we've got a great feedback system as humans. We just need to look at our outside life, and our outside life will tell us exactly what we're believing inside our own heads that we can achieve. You know, it's a great feedback system.
And so in a previous podcast, at the time of recording, that's not out yet, but in a previous podcast, I spoke to Sam Ferris, who experienced some extreme burnout and quite some emotional times. And one of the things we spoke about was, if you were appointing a coach, if you're looking to actually find a coach, how you find the right one. Because it can be quite a minefield, can't it? So what would you say is the most important thing to do to find the right coach for you?
I guess it would be speaking to different coaches and having an experience of coaching with them. And I won't coach everybody. You know, it is a two-way relationship. Somebody has to have a willingness to be able to look at themselves and to self-reflect. So finding the right coach, it's kind of a personal journey, isn't it? It's just what resonates with you or for you.
Yeah. Have you ever had an experience of hearing someone being coached down a path you believe to be the wrong path, maybe, not leading in the right way when it comes to mindset? Because it is a minefield, isn't it? When it comes to the mind, the mindset and everything else like that, it's tough.
Yeah, it is tough. And yes, I have heard people going down the wrong way. And also in coaching and therapy as well, particularly around depression, going in the wrong direction as well. To me, giving people more to do and getting them to look to try and believe and change the outside, or believe that the outside world is what they're up against, is never helpful.
Brilliant. Alison, is there anything else that you want to mention, talk about? I missed anything that you feel was important?
Well, I guess there's kind of, there's lots of principles that I talk about with people when I'm coaching them around not taking things so personally. It's all around believing in those thoughts, and he's getting at me, my boss doesn't like me, that person doesn't like me. And when we take the personal out of the situation and look at how unresourceful that makes us, that's quite a helpful thing to understand as well. There's kind of lots to this, really. It's difficult to get it over particularly for somebody that doesn't have a clue about what I'm talking about. To get it over in a short amount of time. The best thing is I'd invite you to have an experience of it and see what it's like for yourself.
Absolutely. And if someone is listening or watching and they want to do that, how can they contact you?
They can contact me by email, which is alison@alisonheathersutton.co.uk, or they can text me or phone me. My numbers, it's all on the website. My website is Alison Heather Sutton. So it's all on there.
Brilliant. And we'll pop a link to that as well on all the different places, so people can find you. It's been great talking to you, Alison. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I believe I understand what you do, and I think it's very, very clever, and I think very useful. So I'm sure people will get a lot from this. So yeah, thank you very much for taking the time to join me, and obviously we'll get it all put together and let you know when it's going out and everything like that, really.
Well, thank you. It's been great talking to you. I hope I haven't blown your mind too much.
Not too much. No, it's all good. Brilliant. Thank you very much.
If you want to get in touch with Alison to speak about her coaching methods, please do check out the link and the contacts in the bio so you can get in touch. Alison says ultimately it's all about us. What do you think? Let us know in the comments. And please do one nice thing today and share this episode with anyone that you think would benefit. That will help us out, Alison out, and them. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next week.